So let's get started with the board, I figure. So the board is a 9x9 grid. So we can start there. So if I save now, the analyzer will be rerun. If we redo the graphics command, I think that's enough. Then that might be enough to actually show the new board. We can see that the types file has been updated. It's now 9x9, and the valid Can the Sardines positions now go up to 9 instead of 5. Yep, here we are. The board is now 9x9. So this, in contrast to Hippolyta, which was just a clear board, this board has terrain. This central can is important in the game because we need to add sardines to it. And obviously we want this to be visible on the board. There's also an additional wrinkle about entering the can, but maybe let's add the can first. So what does a terrain definition look like? If we go to another game that actually has some terrain, let's say Bombardment has the player bases there. What does that definition look like? So it looks like this. So it has terrain. I can make up the name of my terrain and then add what squares that should be for. Either neutral or player 1 or player 2 owned, which is important here to get it the correct player color. So I want a can. And if I save, we can now see that Can the Sardines terrain can be of type can. And here I can just mention positions, but obviously there is an easier way of doing this particular thing since it's a rectangle and it goes from A4, B4, C4, D, E, F, J, C4 to J6. Unless I'm mistaken. We need to rerun the graphics command. Oh, but before we do that, we need to tell Chessicles that the can should look different. We do this in the graphics file. So now we can add the can to here. And these are the available tile types right now. It can be shown as castle, which is gray, grass is green, and water is blue. So if we do castle and we rerun the graphics command, here we have our central can. However, since the can is the goal of the game, we usually represent those with the player colors, like red or blue. But this is a common goal. But there is a color for the common stuff when we have neutral types and so on, and that's yellow, which could be nice. So we could also set this to player color. However, if we do that, I'm not allowed to do, oh, with a U, of course, British spelling. If I do that, I need to have an owner for the can terrain. So it can't just be neutral. So I have to put this in the player 0 key. So now the definition is an object instead, which I need when I have owners. So if we do that, it's player color. We process again. So again, if we compare this to the bombardment board, you can see that when I define the base, I then say owned by player 1, owned by player 2. So this is essentially the same thing, except owned by player 0. Because when we do that, we get the beautiful golden neutral color, which I like. I think we'll go with that. But as I mentioned, there is an additional wrinkle, namely the game ends when it's no longer possible to enter the can, which of course is when all of these squares along the edge are occupied. So in the game logic, the edge of the can will be important. So we need to add that to the terrain as well. The can edge. I save. It should be an array. We save, and immediately the terrain type can now be can or can edge. So we want the same rectangle, but minus the 3 squares in the middle. And I have a convenience type for that, which I call whole rect. So this goes the same rectangle as before. So the first 2 positions is the bottom left and top right corner, and then I can just keep mentioning positions that should not be included, which should be D5, E5, F5. And I can rerun the graphics command if I want to, but I don't intend to add it here, since this is just invisible terrain. It's just to be used with the game logic to see if all of these squares are occupied. Then we should finish the game. And that's it. Now we have finished the Can the Sardines board.